Très bien. Good afternoon, everybody. Je commence en anglais, mais je crois que je vais passer au français immédiatement. Bien sûr, une traduction pour ceux qui souhaiteraient s'exprimer dans une autre langue, mais je pense que c'est le plus efficace. Et donc, vous remerciez tous d'être présents. Je suis Rémi Rioux, le directeur général de l'AFD, et je vais modérer avec beaucoup de plaisir cette session de discussion, de travail, la première dans ce format du dialogue de Paris, pour les objectifs de développement durable, pour le pacte de Paris pour les peuples et la planète. Nous avons 45 minutes pour cette session. Et donc, il faudra être efficace pour que tout le monde, nous sommes nombreux, puisse s'exprimer. Le gouvernement français, je crois, dire quelques mots après mon introduction. Et puis, bien sûr, Pilar pour l'OCDE et Gabriela pour l'UNESCO présenteront le contenu, les attentes, avant que chacune et chacun d'entre vous prenne la parole. Juste pour resituer notre discussion, vous rappeler, en remerciant Justin Weiss et le Forum de Paris sur la paix, que c'est toi, Justin, qui vois ce dialogue naître et qui l'accueille. Nous avions commencé en novembre 2021, donc dans le PPF 2021, par un premier panel avec les organisations internationales installées à Paris, avec cette idée très simple de les rassembler, les réunir et de voir s'il y avait le souhait d'aller plus loin dans ce réseau. On a passé une deuxième étape ici même au Palais Brognard au mois de juin dernier.
We came to the second stage. We moved over to the second stage last year in the Palais Brognard for a new
nous avons signé à 6 avec Audrey Azoulay pour l'UNESCO.
Worldwide convention with Audrey Azoulay, UNESCO Mathias Kamas, OECD, Jamiki Chihuahua for the French-speaking country organization, Fatih Birol for the International Energy Organization, and also the International Commerce Chamber, and also the European International Bank. So our aim was, and myself, of course, and we all wanted to officially initiate this project for a peace forum each year in Paris, open to the world and interested particularly in sustainable development. I think it's a unique venue which makes it possible to gather scientific and sustainable development stakeholders and science and economic players, and convene them, lots of them, in the same venue, in the same city, and of course this will contribute to a dialogue between the major capital cities everywhere in the world and pertaining to worldwide governance. The Paris Peace Forum aimed at having Paris become a laboratory for finding solutions for sustainable development. Science and finance should set up a dialogue within this forum and invent solutions that do not exist yet. So this is the third year, or the fifth year, sorry, for the Paris Forum. There are more of us meeting here than during the previous years. And I would like to ask a very simple question. Are you really interested, all of you, in this Paris dialogue? And what would you like to discuss in this framework? What kind of issues are particularly interesting for you, and what are all the participants of this meeting, or do you want to work with some of those participants? Do you want to act together, organize events together here in Paris? So those are the two questions that I wanted to ask, that we would like to ask you in this tour de table. Do you want to be involved, and why do you want to be involved in this dialogue? Why do you want to be involved in finding those solutions and speaking with one voice in Paris? You have received a draft agenda, and of course it's a preliminary agenda for a future working group that we could make public in a few weeks or as soon as possible. And then we could implement this program collectively. So this is only a core document for your thought, and not of course everybody has been able to say what he or she thinks about this document or this program. I'll stop here, and I would like, since Christophe Guilloux has not joined us yet, I am going right away to give the floor to Gabriella, representing UNESCO. Thank you so much, Rémi. Hello, everybody. It's nice to be here in the Paris Peace Forum and meet all the organizations here. We're very proud that we have been invited for this dialogue. We have worked a lot on a common proposal, a common proposition, and at present at UNESCO we have the general conference. So Paris is very dynamic. 194 countries, with the return of the United States to UNESCO, are meeting in this General Assembly, and I think that all of them want to work with you concerning education, culture, and science.
Because the world needs solutions. And I feel that this is not just a nice round table. It's really a call for everybody that wants to contribute to define more sustainable solutions. It's really taking into account the great agreements that have happened in Paris. Of course, we all think about the Paris Climate Agreement. We think about taxes, but we also think about artificial intelligence that we have at UNESCO. The Paris Pact for People and Planet adopted during the John Summit also provides us with an ambitious roadmap to strengthen international solidarity, to provide a more effective financial response in the fight against poverty and climate change, without one coming at the expense of others. And actually, we know that all these challenges are interlinked. We are gathered to share this responsibility for the implementation, and also to establish the synergies that we can bring into the table to be much more effective. And we can, of course, exchange communities of experts. We can call on our contacts in the private sector, public organizations, institutions, and this is essential to mobilize the knowledge, the contributions, and the strength of everybody. And at UNESCO, of course, we are ready to contribute with our key agendas that you know. We are fully engaged in the development of the roadmap, and we are committed to its implementation. I'm thinking, for example, as I said, about our work on artificial intelligence. We brokered in 2021 in Paris the only global standard on the ethics of artificial intelligence that is now being rolled out with diagnostic tools in 50 members all around the world. This can bring a wealth of knowledge and understanding when everybody is talking about generative AI and safety AI, that I think will bring us Paris and UNESCO's efforts ahead of the game, and we're happy to put that at the table. We also are well known by culture and education, and that will be also making strong contributions, but we are also having this mandate on sports. And you and I have been talking about sports. We have 130 ministers of sports gathering together in June, and this initiative on Fit for Life, because we try to see how do we deploy sports for social cohesion, for peace, and we're working with Paris 24. We're going to have a ministerial meeting in July, taking advantage that probably all of the ministers of sports are going to be here, and I'm happy that we talked yesterday with Dan Hidalgo, and we're going to be working with you on the many very interesting activities that you are planning in the mayorship. Now, I'm also thinking about UNESCO's leadership in education, the Transforming Education Summit that is going to be delivering major contributions, and to ensure, for example, that environmental education is a core component of curricula by 2030, so that all learnings are prepared to face the climate change. But because UNESCO also have an S in its name, even though the S is never known, but if we didn't have the S, it would be UNESCO, and nobody will know what it is. So, because we have the S, we are putting at the table also the analysis that we are doing on climate disruption, addressing major societal issues such as inequalities, and you can count on initiatives like UNESCO Management of Social Transformation Program, which holds a forum every year here in Paris, and I'm glad that Mario Pezzini and Maria Grazia Scucciarini is with me because they're dealing with these issues. So we are very excited. We have the elements, we have the will, we have the wish, and I think we can make it work to make Paris, as I say, a source of solutions to the challenges we face. So thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup, Gabriela. Donc, la science.
Thank you so much, Gabriela. Science and education for sustainable development is a topic which is very dear to our heart. So, Pilar, OECD, the other major multilateral organization in Paris, and which is present here.
Merci, cher ami, et merci aussi.
Thank you, dear friend. Thank you all to all my colleagues.
Dream team once again meeting together, and this year's Paris Forum is particularly important to the OECD because yesterday, as Remy mentioned in the beginning of this session, President Macron announced that there will be a mechanism in the shape of a joint working committee to follow up on the outcomes of the summit on the new global financing pact. And this includes the implementation of the Paris Pact for People and the Planet, the 4P roadmap. The OECD is very honored to have been chosen to host the future 4P Secretariat in order to support the work of the 4P Implementation Committee in monitoring the progress of the 4P roadmap. Our objective is to keep the political momentum for a more ambitious reform of our global financial architecture and help to promote and incubate initiatives in support of sustainable financing of the Sustainable Development Goals. And no better place to do this than in Paris, which for centuries has captivated and inspired and attracted creative minds from around the world. We are calling on all to join forces to respond to developing countries' financing needs and to ensure that no country has to ever choose between protecting and defending people and protecting and defending the planet at a time that we have a polycrisis. We have a 2-year window until the 4th International Conference on Financing for Development in 2025 to collectively rethink the system inherited from the Bretton Woods and to revise the Addis Action Agenda. That brings me to today's meeting and the role of the Paris Dialogue. The Paris Dialogue was launched at the June summit with a vision to bring Paris-based institutions closer together, to have a stronger and united voice in support of the SDGs, and to make Paris an international laboratory of sustainable adoption of a more precise terms of reference and a roadmap from the Paris Dialogue. We have circulated, as Remy mentioned, both drafts to you ahead of this meeting, and we would welcome any comments and inputs from those who wish to contribute to the Paris Dialogue. So the Paris Dialogue Roadmap presents initial key priorities for actions that have been identified by its funding partners around 5 thematic areas. The first one, financing for sustainable development, AI, sustainable development and climate, sports and culture for social cohesion, as Gabriela mentioned, and common goods for development like health and education, and sustainable quality infrastructure. It also identifies key milestones aligned with this 4P roadmap that include the 2024 Paris Olympic and Paralympic Games. That could be an opportunity for the dialogue to meet and reassert its voice once again. In particular, the Paris Dialogue Roadmap lists possible joint actions by all or by a subset of the dialogue partners. For example, the OECD will expand its joint work with the Agence française de Développement on artificial intelligence towards the creation of an AI lab for sustainable development solutions. We have also started exploring the role of public development banks under this umbrella with AFD of Finance in Common Summit and the SDGs with that partnership. So the OECD will also collaborate with UNESCO on multilateral development banks' finance work to improve the quality of funding of OECD members to the multilateral development system, including UNESCO. With the Paris School of International Affairs at Sciences Po, we are exploring ways to bring students on board and to discuss on this global financing architecture reform. The mere fact of working together on this joint roadmap brought us closer together because we realized we had lots in common with concrete projects already emerging from an early discussions. Indeed, the whole of the Paris Dialogue can be and needs to be more than the sum of its parts. So let us work together better and accelerate our efforts to achieve the joint objectives of eliminating poverty and preserving the planet. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Pilar, for initial proposals for the work plan. Je vais ouvrir maintenant le tour de table.
I'm now going to go around the table and to begin with Christophe Guillou, who's the Director for Sustainable Development for the Ministry of European Affairs and Foreign Affairs. I hope that he will give his blessing and his encouragement. Over to you, Christophe, the French government. Thank you very much, Remy. I apologize for arriving a bit late. I was at another round table, taking some time to end, and indeed, I wanted to say that we're delighted with this initiative, the Paris Dialogue, which is an extension of the new Pact for World Finance, which was initiated here about 6 months ago, and say that what we'd like is to take advantage, to draw upon the expertise that we have in France, and particularly in Paris, in the scientific realm, in the technical realm, and the development realm, to ensure that we can implement what was requested here just a few months ago, to find solutions to both reduce poverty but also to preserve the planet. So as a representative of the French Ministry for European and Foreign Affairs, we're delighted to welcome you with all the key actors and players from many different backgrounds and nationalities to forge this dialogue, this roadmap. And once again, I'd like to thank this organization, the Paris Peace Forum. But thank you ever so much for all of you for kindly coming to attend. And you have our full blessing, and we won't hesitate to back you, which remains attentive to any needs that you might express, and we remain at surface. Of course, thank you very much, Christophe. I'd like to inform Frédéric Billet, the Director of Protocol of France's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I think many international organizations based in Paris are well acquainted with him. He's aware of this dimension of this, dimension of the relationship with the French government. Now I'd like to open up the round table, if that's all right. We've got 25 5 minutes running. Let's kick off with Sandra Botan from the Development Bank of the Council of Europe. Over to Sandra. Thank you very much, Remy. Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you very much for this kind invitation. Very much as an extension of what was it decided just a few months ago, and as you kindly recall. Now, the Development Bank of the Council of Europe is based in Paris and is a fully fledged player. We're very much on board, and we wish to be on board and contribute to this exercise of this laboratory of seeking out solutions to ensure that the funding of sustainable development, I would say, be create even greater impact and be even more innovative. Now, the bank brings together 43 member states, the banks of Europe, as the name the Council of Europe suggests. So most European countries has solely a social mandate. That is to say that it acts to provide the funding of hospitals, of schools, of social accommodation, to ensure the emergency protection after natural disasters, for instance, or when there are population moves, for example, so we have migrants or refugees. We've also looked at culture, but more on a one-off basis. And we were taking part of the renovation of area Mostar after the war in the former Yugoslavia, but it's quite marginal. We also intervene a little bit in the sports realm, because sport is an essential constituent part of social inclusion, and there are quite a few projects underway in Hungary and in Poland. As regards the Council of Europe's Development financing, we provide funding up to 40%. It's via attended by social obligations. Now, since quite a few years, about 2017 now, we've begun to step up, as it were, as regards social funding, and we began to harness new technologies, and we are of the opinion that within the overall discussion about sustainable finance, it's important to consolidate green financing, but also to further develop, consolidate, establish social funding and the status thereof. And it's subject to, we don't claim that we are more well-versed than this particular subject than others, given its specific attributes, but within the framework of this Parisian dialogue, we perhaps may furnish a useful contribution when it comes to social funding or financing. But once again, I'm delighted to be on board, and we need, this is not necessarily a form of criticism, and far from it. We need, beyond our formal meetings, to have a workflow and a relationship more on a daily basis. We need to sort of nourish this relation daily. So, of course, after these great summit meetings, we return to the office. You tend to forget what you were doing, talking about on Saturday, 11th November. So on the basis of the business cards that shared, propose to see each other again, to meet up, but we're fully on board and we're fully in agreement with this. Thank you very much, Sandrine. So indeed, I think we need to establish a little network and operate on a daily basis, and I think that the Council of Development Bank is working on the social pillar, education and social affairs, but also on the financial side of things. I'm now going to go forward to Philippe Barle for the International Chamber of Commerce. You're the first Deputy Chairman, I believe.
In English, my notes are in English, and anyway, the French always understand my English, so it's good. So, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, so let me start by saying that the International Chamber of Commerce is very delighted to be here and support the initiative since the beginning. We are an international organization headquartered in Paris, and we have 45 million members, the chambers of commerce all around the world, and especially committees, national committees in 100 countries. So we applaud the leadership of France on this matter, and the role of AFD and Remy in particular. So one word on the context, quick word, and two projects that I would like to share with you. The context is that from a real economy perspective, it's clear that global sustainability goals can only be reached if the financial system is fully aligned. And we are very keen on this matter within ICC and the trade. So also acutely aware of the problems and the financing gaps that we have ahead of us, not least the $18 trillion that will be needed to finance the green energy transition up to 2030. So, and currently we have the trends of inflation, sovereign debt, and stability, which makes this challenge even greater. So this is for the context, and we firmly believe that collaboration between the organization within the Paris dialogue can play a catalytic role. So on this respect, I want to share with you two projects. One is pretty advanced, another one is already just starting. The first one is, as you know, ICC is the global standard setter for bank intermediated finance transactions, which underpin approximately half of global trade flows. Next month at COP28, following a 2-year process, we'll be launching a new set of principles for sustainable trade. It's a practical framework which has been built with 19 international banks and corporates to grade the sustainability profile of trade transactions. This is a very important step for the banks, because this will allow them to finance much more easily, a bit like we have in the EU, the taxonomy for the hard investments, you know. So to make this grading, we believe that the framework, with appropriate support of policymakers, regulators, multilateral development banks, has a significant potential to enable the alignment of global trade with sustainable developments. So this is a great example on how we can harness the power of the financial system to effect a real change in the world. So this is one project. The second one is more to be elaborated yet. It's about the CO2 markets. We are working on developments of a global market of CO2. We make an assessment of a number. We have 70 markets in the world, and there is no one which has the same price, from 110 euros per ton in the EU and $3 per ton in Indonesia. So we have analyzed a number of these markets, make a benchmark and so on, and we'll try to set some rules for convergence of these markets. So still here, a long way to go. So here are the two projects I wanted to share with you, and if in the room any organization has some ideas, we are open to. Thank you, Remy.
I do. A lot to say on carbon markets, of course. Je vais peut-être passer à...
Perhaps I'm going to give the floor to Frédéric Formes for France's elite university, the École Normale Supérieure. Thank you very much, Remy. Thank you very much for the invitation kindly extended to France's elite university, École Normale Supérieure. I'm delighted to be here. I'm very happy to remind you about the school. I can do it in French or in English as you wish. I can switch to English if you so wish.
École Normale Supérieure is one of the most selective research schools in France. It's based in Paris. It's in transdisciplinary, going from fundamental sciences of nature to social science and humanities. And we are also developing with various partners which have Paris in their name. We are part of a global university called PSL, Paris Sciences et Lettres, which includes other major institutions such as Collège de France, École de Physique Chimie de Paris, Paris Dauphine aussi. Donc it's a major association of major research universities in one university. And we are also one of the members, founding members of the Paris School of Economics, l'École d'économie de Paris, which I will mention for various reasons, including maybe the CEPREMAP is present here with Martin Kessler, but also with the projects led by Esther Duflo on, of course, poverty labs and poverty research based in Paris in our school, thanks to the AFD and the support of many institutions. And Esther is now a professor at the Collège de France. And we could mention also the Global Observatory for Tax, European Tax Observatory for now, but it's going to be global. They just delivered the report on global tax evasion, and it's led by Gabriel Zuckman, who just earned the Clark Medal, and who is our professor of economics, succeeding to Daniel Cohen, who was just deceased, as you know. And I want to pay tribute here to maybe you would have invited him instead of me if he was among us. As École Normale as such, I want to mention 3 main projects. Well, there is the École d'économie de Paris with the Esther Duflo project. I think it's very important for you and to have these projects in mind. They are developing very fast. It's experimental economic research on poverty around the world, but it's based in various places in the world. It's based in Boston, but the Paris center is very strong. I want to, very soon we will announce as the École Normale as such, with all our interdisciplinary power, a major announcement on AI and society. I cannot announce the details. It could have been announced yesterday by the authorities. It will be announced soon in the École Normale, but it will be a major creation, institutional creation on AI and society within PSL too. So I have to keep it under embargo, so to speak. I'm looking at my text in real time. So this will be a major interdisciplinary AI project on all society aspects, but with basic also data center, data research with our sciences. We have also, and it will lead me to my third project, a center which works at the border between biology and data science. The last project I want to mention is 2 other projects, maybe on biology and health. We are leading, as a faculty, the Paris Santé campus on digital health. And finally, with the AFD, we lead also a Euro-African formation campus with a core curriculum developing into a master's degree, which we call the New World Understandings. And I think it's very important to have an African and European dialogue based in Paris. And finally, we want to build a Paris campus on the transdisciplinary problems with other institutions on the Montagne Sainte-Geneviève. And of course, this is a global Paris campus, and I want to thank Rémi because he's responsible for me to be not only here, but at the direction of the École Normale, and this vision of Paris as an interdisciplinary capital of and resource for the sciences of the new world we're living in. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Frédéric.
Thank you very much, Frédéric. This ties in a great deal, Frédéric. It ties in a great deal with things that we said earlier. Let's move on to Catherine Beaumont for sustainable development, and then we'll have the other intellectual. Thank you, Rémi. Hello, everyone. And what I represent is the City for Sustainable Development. Just a few words about it. The City of Sustainable Development is an ecosystem which is quite unique and which brings together around 20 or so partners in a unique location, which is the Tropical Gardens in Paris in the wood of Vincennes. The original idea was to bring together different players who are all working within the field of international cooperation, solidarity and sustainable development, because we bring together research organizations with universities of Paris Paris One and NGOs and also companies from the social economy. So that means that we are a city or an ecosystem which is unique, completely in sync with the ambition of the Paris Dialogue process. And in this regard, we are very much part and parcel of this ambition. We wish to make a full contribution there too. Now, our ecosystem as city and its international partners are producing knowledge and have the objective to produce knowledge and to disseminate it towards different public or population groups, but to politicians or university academics or schools. But we are producers of knowledge, but we're trying to create an open dialogue or open knowledge dialogue, open society. We're also in contact with an initiative which is completely in line with the Paris Initiative. We're seeking to decompartmentalize, break open the silos or the isolated, closed-off compartments. We're trying to bring together fundamental applied research, but those who practice development in the field, because we have 350 projects developed per year in 100 or so countries, and we bring together about 300 people, about 240 researchers. We've got master's students, PhD students. We've got a reservoir of potential, and we wish to place at the service of the Paris Dialogue Initiative. Now, where might we come together with you? Well, in the realm of finance, which sometimes for the players on the field who've, of course, for sending out questions, there are questions about ecology finance. There's also manager of resources, be it exhaustible or renewable resources, water, international cooperation, solidarity, international, urban transformation, so as to stand up and cope with climate change and the promotion of biodiversity. Now, we are based on, we're there when it comes to finance, we're there where it comes to artificial intelligence, because artificial intelligence will probably play the roles in the areas involved, for example, big data, the common measure of common goods or public goods, but there is something which perhaps hasn't been sufficiently highlighted in the notes. The idea of transformation, transition and transformation, which how can we transform a production system which is a consumption system based on needs collectively in a democratic fashion, and how we can redirect it with different instruments, how can we redirect financing, better productive systems that are consumption systems to a greater system of sustainability, if you like. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Thank you very much, Catherine. And having gone to the wood of Vincennes or the Tropical Garden of Paris, I warmly invite you to do so. It's an absolutely enchanting location. So we've got a lot of international institutions here and local institutions. There's a nice mixture between the local and international. And I'd like to come back to the international organization for the French-speaking world.
I would like to introduce the International French-Speaking Organization. Our General Secretary has been in Yaoundé last weekend. There is a new 4-year program that has been adopted, as well as the new topic for the summit that will be organized in 2024, innovate and Innovation and Management. It will be held in Villers-Cotterêts in France. So unfortunately, our Secretary General is unable to be here. So this has been, she has had the opportunity to advocate for the adoption of a vulnerability index for each country, which is very dear to the heart of our organization. Within the OIF, we are going to continue to feed projects into the program that you have mentioned today. We have many other projects, and it also results from the work of our institute in Quebec. For instance, the Nexus program, which aims at encouraging innovative approaches for adapting and being resilient to the climate change. Thank you, Bertrand. I am going to go on the other side, and I'm going to give the floor to the City of Paris, but just at the end, the representative of the City Hall. But I will give you the floor at the end of this session. Now, I'm going to give the floor to Margarita for the World Partnership for Education.
Here today on behalf of the Global Partnership for Education. We established our base here in Paris a few years ago and continue to grow our presence here, recognizing all the important partners that are present here in Paris to promote sustainable development, education, especially, of course, for us. Let me start just by saying a few words about education. It has long been regarded as the cornerstone of development, but in the current global context, its role in shaping peace, security, and sustainable development is of increasing importance. And global progress towards a more sustainable future relies on the knowledge, skills, and values of educated populations. It holds the key to critical thinking, open dialogue, and economic growth opportunities. It's also a critical basis for the kind of scientific knowledge and cooperation that will help us understand the origins, characteristics, and consequences of global problems. But falling government revenues, deepening poverty, reduced development aid, impact of climate change, and mounting costs of paying off national debt crowds out critical investments in education. And we will simply not resolve the complex challenges we face today without strengthening our efforts to support strong education systems that provide future generations with the skills and knowledge to establish a better future. So the mission of the Global Partnership for Education is to mobilize partnerships and investments to support the transformation of education systems in partner countries, notably lower income countries and lower middle income countries with big education challenges. We work to leave no one behind, and with a core focus on promoting gender equality within and through education. And we work in very close partnership with both UNESCO and AfD, among others, in Paris. The way we are a multi-stakeholder fund and partnership, and our partnership consists of donor countries, the partner countries that we support, civil society partners, private sector, private foundations, and multilateral organizations. And what we try to do is really mobilize everyone's efforts to both mobilize education, resources for education at the global level, as well as in partner countries. We work closely with civil society also to advocate for more domestic investment in education in partner countries. And we try to mobilize everyone around aligned, harmonized support to countries to strengthen their public education systems, really trying to focus on the greatest challenges countries are facing, building capacity for delivering education better and more equitably. Some interesting things we are now also working on is looking at the links between climate change and education, looking at the role of education both to address climate change and build more sustainable futures, but also in seeing, in addressing the impact of climate change on education. So I don't think I have time to say more, but just a little taste of what the global partnership is all about. And we're very happy to be part of this forum. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup, Margarita. Évidemment, votre présence à Paris renforce beaucoup le pilier éducatif qui s'est...
Thank you so much, Margarita. And of course, your presence here strengthened the education pillar. We're very happy about that. Let me come back to the financial pillar. Cécile Goubet is going to have the floor. She is the manager of the Sustainable Finance Institute.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you.
Je voudrais déjà commencer par vous dire à quel point nous sommes ravis
I would like
à cette initiative.
to say that we are absolutely delighted
Nous sommes déjà à la tâche.
to be involved in this initiative. We have been here for since the beginning. We are the sustainable finance arm of this association, and we have many members. We focus on ecological transition. We've worked a lot on this transition. We want to know how we can integrate the ecological environmental transition in the investors' decisions through work concerning CO2 counting, analysis of the financial investments and governance. We have a lot of work, ongoing work on fair finance, fintech, education, the link between education and sustainable development in order to have the necessary skills tomorrow in the companies. We are partners with the, we have the ISR label, and we also partners with the Sustainable Finance Observatory. Now, today we are particularly interested in financing sustainable development. First of all, our commitment, data, public-private finance, and the way forward. Following the June summit, we have drafted a statement which has been published in June, and we have set up a finance and development forum concerning emerging countries, mobilizing a task force including finance stakeholders, bankers and investors. Secondly, data. Amongst all the ideas that have been initiated, we have called upon opening to all the players a database concerning public finance and calls for tenders. Why? Because it's necessary to have access to the historic record of private finance in order to make it more easier for the emerging countries to have to receive funds, and also because if we assess the risks in the various countries, we can move forward more speedily, and we can have more skills about the and more knowledge concerning the economic situations prevailing in the various countries and the financial markets. Now, this access to data would make it possible to improve the ratings of those countries whose track record is positive. Now, the third pillar, blended finance. Since it was initiated, the IFD forum, since it was set up on emerging countries, has very rapidly identified this blended finance tool in order to move forward. Indeed, we can find the same issues and the same problems in all those countries concerning financing environmental transition, and also concerning the partnership between developed and developing countries. How to mobilize private capitals? It's a very important issue if we want to comply or to implement the Paris Agreement. It is going to make it possible to find more rapidly funds for emerging countries. This is why we strongly believe in the development of this tool. Figures are very specific. Since 2019, the funds for blended finance has increased to more than 3 billion. It's a lot, but it's not a lot. It's also a small, it's 2%, small part of the public development aid. Development, multilateral banks and other institutions should cooperate more and have a dialogue with private players before the projects are initiated. Finally, our ecosystem and how do we work. The forum that we organize should become a place for dialogue. We need, it's in our DNA, we want all the stakeholders to be able to set up a dialogue. And the IFD forum is part and parcel of the Peace Forum. This is why we strongly support this approach and we want to continue on that path. Thank you very much.
C'est toute la force de la place financière de Paris, bien sûr.
Of course, the Paris financial market is very strong and can do a lot. I'm going to give the floor to Martin Kessler, who's going to talk about development finance. Right after Cécile, it's quite logical. Martin, thank you very much for this invitation. As Frédéric, I could say that Daniel Cohen should be here in my place. He was one of the founders of this project. CEPREMAT had been quite good in mobilizing funds on a macroeconomic level. The idea was that we needed research, excellent research, for improving economic policies pertaining to funding development and sovereign debt. Finance needs are greater and greater, and we have to find political and financial solutions with the multilateral players. Why do we need another think tank in Paris? Well, because in Paris we have this ecosystem related to the AFD, to the Paris Club de Paris, and we have all the skills necessary based in Paris. So it's a different way to work. Since we have been created, we have engaged into partnerships with about 30 think tanks in the Global South, in Africa, in Asia, in Latin America, with which we are trying to talk about economic policies and to support them with our technical assistance and to disseminate their research through a kind of parallel diplomacy and with the creation, with the organization of many meetings with them. I'm going to stop here, and I do hope that this partnership between the Paris marketplace and the Southern Development Countries Institutes, we will move forward very rapidly. Thank you very much, Martin. I'm going to give the floor to Gilles with the Research Institute for Development. Thank you very much for the invitation to this dialogue between finance and international cooperation members. I'm going to be the spokesperson of the ERD, a public sector research institute under the aegis of the Foreign Ministry in France. To put on the same line science and development, it's our purpose since we were created 80 years ago. In our laboratory in France and overseas, and in about 50 countries in Latin America and Africa, we show what is the model of a committed science, open science, cooperation on a long-term basis with the scientific communities of our partner countries, make out of the RARD a good example of the French scientific research and its development aid policy. We have a joint commitment in order to implement the 2030 agenda. and France is going to be a partner in going to promote solidarity-based and sustainable development, because science is not limited to supplying data and technical expertise. It's a leverage for sustainable development. To put on the same level science and finance is strategic. The scientific environment and research institutions are operating are working on a competitive basis for finance and funding. And I do think that for the next future, we should overcome the relationship between operators and donors in order to set up, engage into new interaction and promote new scientific projects. The climatic challenge is huge, and we need to concentrate and to encourage cooperation between the private and public sector. I think that this is the purpose of this Paris Peace Forum this year. We need to protect vital reserves of biodiversity and carbon. The RRD has to coordinate all the various issues, and we are going to open our data and promote interdisciplinarity. Science has to change and decompartmentalize. It has to be more committed. If we want to engage on the path of sustainability, we have to change this science. And within the RRD, sustainability science is at the core of our scientific strategy. This model is the only one which is able to bring the proper solutions, appropriate solutions, in view of the complexity of the health, demographic, and environmental crisis. This is this model that we have recently defended during the One Polar Summit through the project called Life Without Ice, concerning the environmental impact of the glacier melt on the regions in Africa, for instance. So you can rely on us. We are going to go on defending the Paris market excellency as far as science is concerned.
Merci beaucoup, Gilles. Tout cet écosystème.
Thank you, Gilles. All this ecosystem concerning development issues. Marcia's job was with us last month, and the World Bank is more and more active concerning these issues. And before giving the floor to the Paris City, I am going to give the floor to the representative of the Belinda Gates Foundation, Béatrice. Thank you for giving me the floor. I'm not going to be long. The Gates Foundation has been created 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago. It gives around, it grants about $20 billion each year in grants. And it deals with education, health, sanitation, financial services, sustainable finance, finance engineering, and financial institution reforms.
La Fondation Gates, c'est son centre évidemment à Seattle.
Concerning the Gates Foundation, its headquarters is in Seattle. We have an office in several countries in the world, in Paris, of course, and you can join us at any moment. The head of the Paris office is here, and discussions are underway in order to build a foundation in Paris. Mathilde and myself and our partners, we try to convince all our experts to make a stopover in Paris when they have to travel. So we would be delighted to have a list of persons who would be interested at all time by an improvised dinner with experts making a stopover in Paris. I know that we are behind schedule, and I've heard the presentation concerning the university normal sup work, and maybe I would like to talk about a specific project in our GATE Foundation, the Ground Challenge. What are those challenges? Those are the challenges that we have to take up several times a year in areas where we are working. For instance, 20 years ago, it was a challenge concerning toilets. We needed to build toilets at less than 50 centimes or 50 cents a day by operators producing drink water and not consuming electricity. So this is done. The challenge has been taken up. It's a Toulouse company. We have also started a project concerning health and artificial intelligence last summer, and also another project concerning the link between health and climate with the use of IA, including talking about pandemics. So I think that there are lots of ties to be set up between various topics and issues. I think that researchers and students at the École Normale could be part of this research. The foundation needs to choose the best research proposals, and we would give 100,000 euros to start with to each researcher. Now, that's the project that I would like to share with you. I think that with the best minds and diverse minds, it would be we will find the best solution for the development. And we already had answers from researchers in the Global South.
Thank you very much, Beatrice. I think everyone was very attentive to your remarks there. I hope I haven't forgot anyone when I went around the table there. And I'm now going to give the floor to from Paul Fadol. Anne Vidago, the mayor of Paris, was this earlier on. Yes, she couldn't be with us unfortunately today, but she would like to contribute to the launch of she contributed to the launch of the Paris Dialogue, and she's following the developments of this dialogue process. Well, there are various points to be raised. This Paris Dialogue is a jolly good thing, but we've got, it's not just because it's in Paris, we've got international organizations, we've got universities in Paris, local organizations, but it's a form of synergy, if you like, to which we can contribute. We can do it because when you look at when I take the list of all these institutions which are part of the Paris Dialogue process, we have extremely intense relationships with many of them. I think, obviously, of the International Organization for the French-Speaking World, and because it is an operator of the OEF, I'm thinking of the OECD because it actively takes part in the City for Inclusive Cities initiative within the OECD. And I won't, of course, mention our relationship with the AFD, the French Development Agency, because that is a matter of course, isn't it, Rémi? But indeed, what Paris might contribute, as well as being the location for these institutions, is, well, I think all of the networks that the town of Paris has got executive positions, as it were, and all of its networks in connection with sustainable development. I'm thinking of the C40, which brings together the 100 largest metropolises in Europe, and I'm thinking of course, Chicum, and the climate initiative. I'm thinking of that you can bring them together, and we can put that into the basket here, if you like. That's what we can bring to the table. And we've got, if you've got Rémi, I can see you've got the little Thai icon of the Olympic Games, the Paralympic Games, how we combine with the sport in the roadmap as a theme through which this Paris Dialogue might be pursued. Of course, we have to organize something within the framework of the Paris Dialogue process during the Paris Olympic and Paralympic Games. Of course, I think that is self-evident. It is a matter of course. Thank you very much to you, dear colleague. I think we've considerably overshot the time allocated to this, but unfortunately, I won't open up the floor to all others in the audience audience who wish to contribute, but please, if you wish to exchange with us, please don't hesitate to come up and see us if you want to take part. So I think to try and wrap up this roundtable, I'd like to warmly extend my gratitude to all of you. I understood that you want to take part in the Paris Dialogue process. This is excellent. This is a splendid piece of news, and I think there's the question of supporting sustainable development. I think that's interesting because research players talked about finance, and the finance players talked about finance. So I think when it comes to getting these two different worlds to work together, I think they could potentially be on the same wavelength there. That's positive, promising for the future. I think there's a strong degree interdisciplinarity, and I think that's part of that's the advantage of Paris, which has a host of all these different disabilities in critical mass, as it were. And I hope that Daniel Cohen, who many of you were acquainted with, who was the connection between all of us in many aspects, and he was a form of a link point with the world, Paris and the world. I think you were proud of us today, if you could see us. Now, I heard the questions regarding the education and public goods, as it were, in the Paris Dialogue process. I heard the question of sustainable finance, what Philip said about the carbon markets, what we said in the document at this stage, which seems to be extremely important for all of us, and the subject of finance and development. It's going to be a very particular aspect of the Paris Dialogue process for Africa, but also for emerging economies, and that's something we perhaps need to structure with as a large number of players that are here today. And I've heard reiterated. I've heard people talk about sport. That sport was one of the words or ideas on many people's lips. And I think in July next, we'll have the opportunity. The President of the Republic has announced a summit on the contribution of sport to the common good, to sustainable development, and so there are many other ideas which have come up. I don't want to rule any out, but those seem to be the main ones. I think there's been a sufficient number of players in attendance here to create a working program. A last point on the way things are organisation. I'll try and be brief. I'd like to thank Fabio Grassi from the AFD, the French Development Agency, is the link person between all of us. I think there's a little network of Sherpas, actually, of summit Sherpas, the OECD, UNESCO, the signatories for the meeting from June. I think this needs to roll out to all institutions which are represented in this room, and perhaps others that might join us in the future to talk about this program. And I'd like to say, I think perhaps between now and the end of the year, we'll put the finishing touches to a final document, which will be the starting point for work, and perhaps hopefully be able to find an opportune moment during the first 6 months of next year to have it published together. So I think we ought to take opportunity to exchange business cards, build up one's contact book. There was the idea so that everyone knows who does what. It's important when colleagues come together, and we need to define a working timetable for 2024. There you are. So a conclusion which isn't really one as such. So a very warm thank you to you all who have attended and have actively taken part on this Saturday afternoon. Thank you very much again.